Hello viewers, welcome to Angular 8 tutorial, and today we are going to discuss nested components in Angular, which is we are at session 6 of this series. So I would request to please go to my previous tutorial, a template 1, template URL and components, because these things are all interrelated. So you can just consider it is the continuation to my session 5 and session 4 basically. Okay, so kindly go through it and let's proceed. Okay, like a component within another component is called as nested component. Like as the name, suggests itself as a name, it speaks about like the component which is nested to another component is known as nested component. That means here we are going to explore like one component is using within another component. Okay, so also in Angular terminology, the nested component tells and speaks about like the parent and child relationship between two components and more than two components as well. Okay, and here the one calls another component a merge parent component, and the one being called by another component is called a child component. Just we are going to look into this right now. Okay, so like in this example, we have one main component. You can see like welcome to employee details application. This is coming from app.component ts. Even you would have been observed like in our previous tutorial also. The headline is that I just bit little bit modified. I'm just going to show it right now. So here you can see like the first one is called my app component, and this header text is coming from app component, which is our parent component. And the below table basically the tabular format, you are just getting the record. Basically the employee details is coming from one more component, is called child component. Here the child component is called as employee hyphen list dot component. Okay, so this employee list component we are getting it rendered to the app dot component, which is our parent. So this suggests us the parent and child component relationship. So let's go with the first step we are going to create is the child component. Okay, so let's open the VS Code, and we will continue with our the previous one what we already have created with the app component. Now we would be creating the employee employee component using the CLA command. And what is the command for this to create? We are having this command nggg, abbreviated as generate c for component employee slash employee list. Okay, so let me go into VS Code and we will discuss over there itself. So guys, like here you can see okay, just a second. Yeah, it's all fine. Just put a clear screen. Okay, fine. So now we are just going to create our command ng g for generate, c for component. Okay, so you must be within the directory you are pointing. That means we are pointing the app directory for a ng component. Here, how the syntax is going to create? I'm just creating, I'm not giving the component name directly. I'm creating employee slash. That means employee would be a folder within app. Okay, so let's move on to and just show it action how it is going to be have. Okay, so employee hyphen list. Okay, so here if when I will just put enter, it is going to create a component name as employee hyphen list within a folder called employee component. Here we are good to go with C. Here you can see, right? So we are having a component within a folder called employee. Okay, now let's move into the next step. Okay, so my next step is about, okay, just create an interface as model for employee. Why? So, okay, so I'm not going to discuss more into interface as of now, but just to have an intro, just consider interface is here is something like of type abstract, where you will have the member in the sense you will have properties, get set properties, and you will have the methods, so that the component which is going to be implement this interface can override basically. Okay, so this is a term, but here most of the cases like interface is being used as a model to Angular. So let's go and just create the interface, and this is the command like how we can create ng g Interface, the term, like we want to create an interface. Again, the model is folder and I employee, as I stands for interface, because in every object oriented language we are having naming conversation, the interface must be start with I, but it is not a mandatory rule. But yes, of course, mandatory rule in the sense like it's good to have with I for identification, but that doesn't make sense like okay, or that it's not nothing is wrong like if you're not having an interface with I, that means that is not going to work. It's not like that, but it's better to have a proper syntax basically, or the naming convention. So here I'm just going to create ngg. Sorry, sorry. Okay, ngg generate interface. I have to create within an interface called as I employee. Okay, that's all good. Let's see. Yeah. So here you can see have we are having a folder called model, and within that model we have a class called iEmployee.ts, and you can see it is the export interface iEmployee. Okay, so just for interest of time, so as I told, like interface iEmployee, we are going to just use it as a model. So I already have created some of properties, or the get set properties which is required to process the data. So just for interest of time, let me just copy it. Okay, just okay. So here you can see like I am just creating employee ID of type number, employee name of type string, and so on for gender, email, and department. Now, what is the next step? Tells about us. Okay, generate and initialize an employee list in child component. The first step is like we need to go to the employee hyphen list, the employee list component or TS file, so that we can have some data to render to as HTML, as I showed in the first slide, like how the data is going to be appear in form of a table. Okay, so let's move into. So yeah, we are going to have our app employee list component dot ts. Okay, so here I'm just going to declare one variable like employee list. Okay, of type I employee. When you will just hit enter, it is going to import it from the proper path, basically a source app folder and I employee. Okay, that's all good, and just put a semicolon. And here, like, okay, we don't have anything to, just initialize in constructor, but is yes, of course. So there is a lifecycle event called ng on init. When it being called, when the form is going to load for the first time, whatever the things we have been defined within this block is going to be initialized first. So we will discuss in details when we are moving, or when we will have an, as a different video session on life cycle on Angular. Okay, so here what I am supposed to do here, I just want to initialize. So in our real time, basically we need to load the data from database, but here I am just hard coding for your demonstration and understanding. Okay, so for interest of time, I have already stored, and let me copy. Okay, so yeah, okay, why this is not, just copy it and paste over here. Employee ID number string dependent type. Okay. Okay, so basically we are defining a multiple list, but the type we have declared wrongly. So it would be of type an array actually of list item. So it should be of type array. Now that's all fine. It is a syntactical error basically for typo. Okay, that is all good. Now what is the next step? We would be just rendering the HTML using this data list basically. Okay. Okay. So like as I told, as we already have designed the list item and that need to be rendered to the HTML. And post that, the next step is like we need to register the employee list component to app model.ts, because without registration the application is not going to identify what is all about a employee list within my directory structure, right? So let's design the HTML first, then we'll move into the registration part. So like we need to go to the employee list component HTML, because it is the corresponding HTML to this particular TS file, right? So here, okay, let's just remove all the code, and just for interest of time, again, I have already done with the HTML part. So this is all about the HTML. Here we are just simply, creating a div, and we are just applying it should be the text align center, and padding I'm just giving little bit. And here we are having, five table headers basically, like as per the data we are having in, this list. Okay. So yeah, having like employee ID, employee name, gender, mail ID, and department. And here we are using to render the data one by one by using a loop, using a structural derivative called ngFor. So we are going to discuss thoroughly with what is a structural derivative and what are types of structural derivative we are having in Angular. Okay, so using this loop, we are rendering one by one row based on the number of rows we are having within the list. So here we are having three, means that it is going to loop three times, and here it will render the data, right? So this is the HTML all part. So let me okay. So here there is you can notice there is one a CSS file for this. Again, you can see this is something the CSS you want to applicable for this particular HTML, you can just get it rendered. So let me design some CSS accordingly. Okay, so like for TD, I'm just simply mentioning textile and justify, and padding I'm giving as 10 px, so that it will come up with a look and feel. And table header, we are just making the font size larger, color would be gray, font weight bold, and text ln is again justify. Okay, so this is all about the stylings. Now what is the next step? Okay, nesting child. Okay, this would be the final step, but prior to that, as we discussed, like we need to register. The thing is, this is not a burden when you are using a CLI. It will be auto register, or auto have been registered. Let me show you basically. So here if you'll consider like app.model.ts, that I'm just going to cover probably by in my next or next to next video tutorial. Like what is app.model.ts? In a short description, app.model is something like your global configuration file. It is a global configuration in the sense like not as your web.config in your .NET, or so it is not that kind of configuration, but it is the model file which handles or which controls the entire application. Okay, so here you can see fmodel.ts. When we have ran the command ngc employee list component, first it has also been registered to here by importing the employee list component from the right path, and again it is getting registered so that it will be available, okay, through this ng module decorator to entire Angular application. Okay, so what is the next step? Let me move into the PPT again. Okay, nesting child with parent component. Okay, this is going to be our final step. So till now what we have done, let's summarize it. Like we have created one child component, and within that child component first we have created an interface so that we can make use of interface as model to render the data and to form a list. Basically, once we have form the list using the list employee list dot component dot ts, we are just using the same list in our HTML part to render the rows basically dynamically. Okay, so post that, again we are just cross checking whether the employee list component is auto registered by CLI properly or not. Then this is the final step. Once our child component is ready, now we have to go to the main part, how a nested component basically works. Okay, let me go to the VS Code again. So when I will move into the list component dot uh, ts list component or employee list dot component dot ts, here you can see, like as I told, a component includes three things: manage, one decorator, one class, okay, and one template basically. So template already been designed, one decorator, and a decorator can contain, as basically these three properties. Okay, and this might be optional, but these two seems mandatory: either template or template URL we can go for, and one selector, of course. And you can basically when we will go to route, this is you can ignore. Okay, but the thing is, this is mainly important when you are going for nested component. So here, what selector is nothing but it's behaves as a HTML tag. So when you will just use this selector as a tag, that means you are going to append entire HTML defined inside the template or template URL, right? We already have seen, but here we are going to cover fully with the nested component concept. So this is the selector. Now, as for the final step, we are going to append it to our parent component. Okay, so sorry, here you can see, like the first step, it is speaks about append child selector in parent. Just we are going to touch up now. And okay, how it seems basically, this is nothing but your app component. If you'll see this particular section, the first div, which is nothing but your app component, and this is the selector how we are going to append it. Okay, let's move into on action and we'll see the how it works basically. Okay, so let me open the app component.ts. Okay, so here my app, the selector, as you know, like the my app is going to be a part of this index.html where it's being called. Okay, but what we are just need to focus, we need to append on app.component to HTML because it is something being declared as the template URL, right? So here, as I shown you already, like um, in our PPT. This is the first part, like which renders the header part basically, and here I need to append the below one, right? And here let me add. Okay, so see, now you can see like it is auto populating. Look, and as I told, like this is going to be have as an HTML tag. That means we already have appended here. So this is the child component within app component. So this is we are talking about um, the nested component, how it works. So let me run and just get into the final result. So for run, we are having ng surf. So it's compiling. It will be get ready. So yeah, so now you need to just browse the URL localhost 4200. Okay. Here we are. Like here you can see, like welcome to employee details application, which is coming from your app component, and this is the list. Basically, you can see this is the list which is getting generated from that employee list HTML and from that child component itself. Okay, let me prove you. Like just go to the debugger tool and just try to hover on this. So you will get the entire content within your element. Just body. There is a my app. Okay, my app is your parent component. Nothing but is when I just clicking on this part, right? So again trt body. Okay, let me collapse it, the table, and see employee list. Okay, so employee list is getting rendered, within my app component. This is the parent, this is the child component all about. So this is what we are going discussing, like how nested component works basically. Okay, so thank you viewers. Thanks for watching this series, and uh, kindly subscribe. Like if found this the tutorial, it's good for you, and by clicking on the subscribe icon, and you can make use of the watermark just below right corner as well. Okay, so okay, so this is the blog for all the text portion of my upcoming and ongoing tutorials, and this is the particular tutorial to get the text portion of this series. Okay, so thank you once again, viewers. Keep smiling, keep sharing your knowledge with others, and keep learning because learning never has an end. Thank you.